Hey y'all, I'm James Wright and welcome to my shop. And this, well, let's talk. So Jeff from REED Planes, he is the mad scientist of woodworking tools. He's the guy who makes cool honing guides, brass knobs, fine adjustments, a file to fit yoke to get rid of the slop, bearing adjuster for Lee Nielsen block planes, the chamfer plane kit, and a lot more. Every now and then he comes up to me with some crazy idea like people would love to have a brass knob, but I'm like, no. Honestly, yes, a lot of people buy those. A little jig that you can strap on there and do chamfers with it. I thought, that's interesting, but no one's gonna wanna buy it, and I was wrong. Lots of people bought them. Hundreds of people have bought them. So when Jeff comes to you and says, hey, I've got an idea, I've learned to listen. He recently put out a kit with these ruler ends, and they're a lot of fun. Is it great? Is it necessary? No, it makes a good, solid story stick. They're a really fun kit to put together, but they're not terribly functional. The problem is you make these rulers, but they're an unwritten rule. And Jeff, he wanted to write some rules. So he came up with this thing, and of course it says REED. The original idea is you could take this wheel and roll it along the wood, and it would mark out all the markings you need to make all of your graduated ruler. Sounds like a great idea, but how do you go about making this thing? This crazy thing happened. Jeff called up Tony Rouleau from Hillview Toolworks, and he said, hey Tony, can you make me this thing? Jeff and Tony worked together and they created 5 of these. Now, Jeff by himself makes really cool tools. And Tony, if you haven't seen his tools, holy cow, you've got to take a look at it. He makes some of the most beautiful tools in the world. So when the two of them come together to make something, it's worth looking at. The problem is, this thing needs pressure. You've got to crush it into the wood to make it work. So how do we go about doing that? Surprisingly, there's an easy answer that most people have in their shop. A drill press. I don't own a drill press, but I do own a post drill. Hey look, it fits, but we don't want it to turn, and we gotta work on this. Now, I could be like Jeff and make this really cool jig and write up all of these plans to make it function. Or I can throw together a bunch of scrap, strap on a clamp, or 2 in my case. Then I can grab a piece of wood and just run it through. It actually goes really quickly. And then you're left with these beautiful graduated marks all the way along here. On this light wood, they're a little hard to see, so you can actually come back in and fill them in to make them a little clearer. I really like this fine pencil. But surprisingly, a ballpoint pen also does the job quite nicely. If you're in something hard like a maple, the felt tip works pretty well as well, but with this one it's bleeding out a bit. So that's why I'm really liking using the pencil actually. And the cool thing is, it's dead on accurate. I'm loving that. You can actually adjust its accuracy by putting more pressure or less pressure to move the lines a little closer together, a little farther apart, just a tiny amount, like an 1/8 inch over the course of a 4-foot stick. And then if you really want to go hog wild, you can add numbers to it. 9. Though if you really want to be accurate with that, you actually set up a jig. It's a fence that they ride along so that they're all at the same spot. And then you can put another block up against it to keep this up and actually vertical. But then that means that your punches are actually really good quality ones. The cheap ones from China often are at weird angles. So if you punch it perfectly vertical, it might punch harder on one side or the other. And the best part of this whole thing is you can buy this for $550. What? Hey, Jeff, yeah, I can't sell it for $550. Someone's going to be making a few of these. They're never going to want to buy one of these. I know there's some weirdos out there who would want to buy it for that, but can we do something else? So yeah, that's the problem. And honestly, $550 is a really good price for this, for the amount of machining to actually just make 5 of these. That's pretty good. But if you're only wanting to make a few sticks for yourself, there's not much reason to buy one of these. And so Jeff has done something kind of cool and said, hey, what if I make a bunch of these and rent them? You can rent this out for $25 and you can make all the sticks you want. And I thought, you know what? That's actually a pretty good idea. Now, I do know that there are going to be some people who would be like, yeah, I would love to own one of those. I'm actually going to make these sticks and sell them at craft fairs and things. And especially with these brass ends, I've seen these sticks selling for $70, $80, $100, and some cases even $200. Yeah, there's people out there who will buy a few of those. And in that case, if you're wanting to sell them, you know, $550 isn't a bad idea, and you can make all of them you ever want in your life. So this one is a bit of an oddball for me because, you know, it's not plain parts. Those are easy. It's not even a jig or a sharpening jig. This is something weird. This is something you buy or rent to make the tool. And do you really need another ruler or even a 4-foot stick or something special with brass ends on it? No, this is completely a luxury. But that's where this is kind of different, because I know that Rex Kruger could never offer this on his channel, because his channel is all about acceptable woodworking. He wants to get things into people's hands at an affordable price and an easy way so that they can get the work done. But my channel is not about that, and that's where this falls in. This is not something that is accessible woodworking. This is, I want to make my own tools, and I want to have fun doing it. I want to do the dumb thing because I really enjoy the dumb thing. And that's what my channel's all about. The fun of doing the dumb thing. And so, Jeff, just between me and you, buddy, this thing really hit the nail on the head for me because it's a lot of fun. I ran a ton of sticks through it. I ran this thing through 5 or 6 times, and there are marks over marks just because I liked running it through there. I had an absolute blast using this. This was fun, and I'm going to be playing around with it and trying some different things, and I've got this beautiful piece of white oak with these grains in here. I'm going to be enjoying myself playing with one of these. And I realized that, wait a second, that's why a lot of people do hand tool woodworking, is they want to go down to the shop and have fun. Whether or not you actually make something, whether or not there's something that's actually functional, as long as it's the hobby that is enjoyable, well, that's where it's at. And this really hits it on the head. Okay, enough of the woodworking philosophy. Let's actually talk about this and how it functions a little bit better. To actually make this thing went through a bunch of iterations, and there was a lot of math behind it. And if you want to see that, you can go to the sales page where there's a PDF you can download that actually talks through this. One of the interesting things is how they used to do it in the past. And I was actually at Starrett recently, you know, the actual Starrett, and I got to see the machine that did most of the graduation marks for Starrett. And it was a really cool pantograph where they had a large print of it, and he would scratch out and it would do the little scratches on the board. And you get really, really fine marks. But that was really time consuming, so this would make it a lot easier. Also, one of the questions is, if you've got these brasses on there, how do you actually line it out? And you could come back through and then line this up with exactly where it would be and put the pressure down on it and then run it and stop it right here and take it off. But most of the time, what you're going to want to do is put all of your graduated marks on the stick, cut the stick to exactly where it needs to be, and put on your brass ends. That way you're not messing with the brass at all. And you can make those marks anywhere you want on this because you're just going to cut it to match what it should be in the end. Jeff goes into a lot more information on the instructions, and you can actually see those if you go to the page where this is listed. His rig for putting it together was miles better than my simple thing over here. Nice thing is both of them worked. His was a little bit more accurate. The problem he had is his bed was a lot longer, and so it was harder to actually get the stick on, and so he put a clamp on there to squeeze it and mechanically drive it through. A really cool idea. This is just one of those things that pops up every now and then that is so different. It's not a plane, it's not a saw, it's not a marking gauge, it's its own weird thing to make other weird things. And I'm really looking forward to experimenting and seeing what comes out of this. And I'm really interested to see what you guys do, because you can rent one of these for 25 bucks for the week and do everything you want. Experiment, play around, try new things and see what comes out of it. Maybe you'll make a product that's sellable, maybe you'll make something weird that you want for yourself. I'm kind of interested to see where this goes. Now, as a side note, we were trying to figure out how to make it rentable. And so what we're going to actually do is $25 plus shipping, and the shipping will cover the shipping to you as well as your return label, so you can send it right back. The downside is we do have to put a deposit on this to cover it in case you bust it up. Or you may want to keep it and actually buy it. So the deposit is the price of the tool to buy it straight out, and then when it comes back to us, that will be returned to you. There's more information on that on the website, and of course lots of links down below in the doobly-doo. I'm almost afraid nowadays when the caller ID comes up and says Jeff Warshawski. I have no idea what he's going to be producing next time. So I hope you like this video, because this is this is out of everyone's wheelhouse. And I am really looking forward to seeing what you guys come up with this. And I'd love to hear your ideas. What would you make if you had one of these in the shop? What kind of ruler or setup would you try and make? Is there some particular device you would love to put numerical marking on? Let me know that down below. I'm kind of interested to see what some people might come with this. Throw your thoughts, ideas down below. Snide comments as well. Thank you. That helps out the channel. Anytime you do comment down below, even if it is a snarky comment, thank you. Honestly, you guys keep the channel going. Without you, we wouldn't be here. So thank you for that. If you'd like to find out more about that or become a patron on Patreon, oh yes, all of these people over here, those are some of the patrons on Patreon, and they are the ones keeping this channel going and making everything happen. Without you guys, we wouldn't be here. We are completely sponsored by you. Even when I do things with Jeff, Jeff makes these, Jeff sells these. I'm just the guy who does shipping, and I get to play with it. And yes, he's sent me some things that I'm like, yeah, no. And he sent me other things, and I'm like, yes, 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 I want that. So I'm always interested to see what Jeff comes up with. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I think that'll do it for now. And until next time, have a wonderful day. The wheels on the embossing die go up and down. This is basically the Constitution. Yeah, it's where the rules come from.